From the crossroads of the world in the heart of Times Square, welcome to Agent Brew, a podcast that percolates real estate insights. I'm your host, Eric Zollinger of Realty Co. Welcome to our viewers and listeners to another episode. Actually, might I say, it is the last episode of season 2. We are so grateful for you to be joining us yet again, and we welcome to this episode Patrick Southern, a licensed realtor associate with SERHANT in New Jersey. Welcome, Patrick.
Eric, thank you so much for having me and being on your last episode for season 2, which is pretty exciting. So congratulations to you to making it through another full season, which is hard work.
Thank you.
That. Yeah.
As my college voice instructor always said, since I'm C and I always have to be at the very end, she goes, well, at least you end with an exclamation point. So
yes.
We're ending this season with an exclamation point with you, Patrick.
Going to raise the energy. We're going to make it work.
Absolutely. So I always like to start on how we were introduced or how we know one another. And I want to thank the amazing ladies at August PR, Tierney and Victoria, for introducing us and really making this happen.
They're the best.
They
take good care of me. They're terrific.
So, all right, let's get started. Can you please share with us your elevator pitch?
Sure. So first off, thanks so much for having me through. It's exciting to speak with you. And I've been watching some of the episodes. They're great. So I'm thankful to be here. Hi, everyone. My name is Patrick Southern. I've been a lifelong New Jersey guy. I've been selling real estate there for a while, for just over 20 years or so. I do pretty high transactions. I've closed, over 3,000 transactions. I started my first company when I was young, about 19 years old, a site acquisition company. And it would house property, or basically it would house equipment that I would lease rooftop space and other communications for, cell antennas and things of that nature that changed very drastically after 9/11. I quickly went on to residential real estate. And fast forward to 2026, here we are. Last year, just as far as some information, I took 376 contracts, basically a house a day. I'm already well over 100 this year. I run a very super lean team. It's just myself. My sister Shay works with me on the buyer agent side. I have 2 staff, a VA, and I did just bring on someone else to help with new dev, which I'll get into, which I've been working on really hard. The setup that really matters the most that I have for my daily life schedule is very strict, which really protects the ability to have dinner with my kids and focus on health and family and all that good stuff that comes along with it. So it's not just full of nonstop work, which it is very taxing to work, but there's other things involved for sure. I would say that the thing I'm most proud of isn't just the production numbers. It's that when people hire me, they get me in the process. So I built a business on real relationships. I work hard to educate the client, provide the best service, stay in touch with them after the deal. I grind really hard on my database and looking for work, and super grateful for all of that. The business itself works by what I call the Southern Standard, which is modern tools but like old school accountability. A very direct and truth-driven business. So our care is to really make sure that the client experience is what it should be. And we focus really, really hard on that. Clients get updates before they want them. And we push really hard to make that process and our systems as seamless as possible. Even though the volume is high, we don't want it to feel that way. These days, I've been working really hard on building a new development business for sales. I started that about 10 years ago. It's what brought me to work with Ryan and SERHANT while I made the move over there. I run the largest new dev condo business outside of some of the giant tower stuff that we are now chasing and going to be competing with, which is why the synergy between myself and SERHANT and meeting with Ryan and what we're trying to put together and will put together on the Jersey side. So I'm happy to go through all that. And the good news is, for helping new construction clients, I've helped, I've built new construction and dealt with new construction myself that I own and operate. So I'm just able to really parlay that into the client experience part also to understand how debt works with the LPs and GPs everything else that goes into it. So that's the short version of 20 something years.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for being prepared. I love it when I ask for a elevator pitch, you thought through this very thoughtfully, came up with very concise ideas, thoughts. You walked us through it, and I truly appreciate that, because now we get to really have some fun, right? And really unpack so many of the things that you discussed. And first, congratulations on all of your successes. You don't get to this point in your career without, either failing miserably or succeeding after a lot of hard work. And I must say, Kristen Hurd, who is a person from your past, when we were speaking about today's episode, she said, that's a person I haven't heard about for so long, but let me tell you, nobody in the business, and especially nobody in New Jersey, works as hard as Patrick.
Very complimentary. So
he's the quintessential hustler for putting in the time and really making it happen. So congratulations that your peers are also equally respectful of you and congratulatory.
It's really nice of her. I haven't heard that name in a while. She is wonderful, and thank you for those kind words. So, and they are accurate. I do work very hard.
One of the reasons I love doing Agent Brew is that every agent has a journey story.
Yeah.
And so to be able to sit here with Realty Co., because we support agents, to just really further that message and support individual agents in highlighting and amplifying what you've done well and what's worked for you, right? Because it worked for you at that given moment in time. Who knows with the way everything changes if it could be a success in the future. It's always about timing. So let's go back to the beginning. Sure. You mentioned that you had some other businesses before real estate, but I guess let's hone in on when you started real estate. You were in New Jersey, right? And how long have you been with SERHANT?
So just over a year now with them. I've known Ryan for a while before that. When he would have things that he would need in Jersey City, he came to me about it, and I was, helping him with the most nerdy stuff, unit optimization, and everything that goes on with it, that real detailed stuff on new dev. And since I had his attention, Ryan's, and I've got to know him over the time we've been together even better. He's just like a sweet, good guy, and a big thinker, and just couldn't be more helpful and wanting people to grow and do well and supportive. And, when we were going through that stuff together, when, this is years ago, on some questions he had on some waterfront property in Jersey City, I said, now's my opportunity. So I messaged him after I helped him out, and I had questions on database optimization, how to follow up at a proper level. And I couldn't tell you, it's, Eric, this is the most nerdy sales stuff ever, but he took the time. He said, call me on Sunday. And, I went and, spoke with him for what had to be an hour, just about COI follow-up and a couple other things. And it was that's kind of how we started to get to know each other, was through that. And then when I had a contract that was coming up for expiration, we started talking about what we wanted to do. And he's like, listen, you've got a void, which is you can't go after anything that's big, which is true. I didn't have the capability to do that with the brokerage that I was at. No disrespect to them, but there was not a brokerage in Jersey City that could do it, just because of the moving market of Jersey City, where the towers were coming into place, and the only game in town was a marketing directors or something like that, which I know that we can outserve and outproduce, respectful to them. And and he was like, well, basically for us to take on new dev over there, he's like, I've got a me in Brooklyn, I've got a me in Miami, I've got a me in, Manhattan is me. And he's like, I really would love to have an expert on the ground over there too. So I think we could really help each other. And I think it's a great relationship in that standpoint. And our goal is to really grow the new dev, and we're working hard to do that. Which, by the way, being in the business this long, you've got to stay stimulated. It's got to be exciting. It's got to be fun. Right. You got to, live in a place where the alarm clock doesn't wake you up. Once you need that alarm clock, you got to start questioning yourself. So.
Well put. So, I have an affinity for new development given all of my years. And so it's wonderful to see the fire to catch in New Jersey, right? Because for so
Yeah.
many years it was the wild, wild west. It seemed like, and now you guys are truly getting some amazing towers in several of the different.
We really are. And, Kristen, you mentioned, she could attest to this. Hudson County is not an easy place to transact. Like it is as tough as it gets, both from every angle, personality wise, to neighborhood wise, to what you're dealing with. I mean, it's tough. So, if you could work through the minutia of Hudson County, you pretty much can do it just about anywhere.
So you mentioned that you've been able to really scale, yet keep your team very efficient.
Yes.
And very, very lean, which is not necessarily the way a lot of other teams have gone. For you to be able to do that, it's one, commendable. I know of several top agents across the country that have been able to do it, but it just means that you're probably working that much harder. With that said, what would you say is your biggest challenge today for you and your team?
Yeah. So one thing to understand is it is working harder, but it's working harder on being honest with the process, with the systems, with your behavior, with your actions, with yourself. It's working harder on that. Not necessarily just like means I have to dig more holes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like so it's working harder on the planning and all that good stuff. As far as challenges come up, it's interesting. The question itself, it brought a couple things to my mind, and I think how I'd like to answer this question is really on a kind of different level than just saying some aspect of the business.
Right.
I love sales, and I love what I do, and I work really hard at it, and I'm passionate about helping the client. Like, I can't tell you enough. Like, I want the client to be happy at all times. Like, I really do. I want them to enjoy it. I don't want them just to have great results. I want them to have a great experience with it. And that's from the regular seller to the developer. And, just recently I was on a trip with my family into the countryside of Italy, and I stopped at this butcher shop, which is very famous. This guy, I think his name is pronounced Dario Cincenni. He was on like Netflix and stuff like that. And it was like a profound experience in this situation where I went there, and there's a restaurant up on top where you sit and you have this food. And here's this guy who's like an 8th generation butcher, right? And the shop couldn't be cleaner. His attitude couldn't be better. It could have been Las Vegas if he wanted to, but it wasn't. It's just still kept to the craft and to the service. He was still working behind the counter, taking care of the village. All the staff couldn't have been nicer. It was just really watching a guy that's mastered his craft, but haven't, at least from my experience of it, didn't get some big head about it. It didn't become the Dario show. It became about the product and the experience that you had when you were there. And I think that the biggest challenge I think I have, if we're being just honest and vulnerable, is to make sure that I don't focus too much just on the growth and the chase and the bigger and the next and the this and the that. And I slow it down and make sure that, the client really is getting the experience they deserve. Because one thing that happens with skill set is when your skills get better, when you're not giving it your all, the client can't really tell. Right? Because the skills are so good.
Correct.
Right? And plus our bar in this industry is so low that you seem really great. You know what I'm saying? So then that's on your side, and it kind of allows you to skate a little bit. And I think the biggest challenge and the thing that I want to be most aware of after that experience is to make sure that when people come to my shop, metaphorically, it feels the way that I felt when I went to that butcher shop restaurant, in Chianti. Like that's really what I want to make sure, that the challenge never leaves, that the experience is there, that the feeling is there, the service is there, and you leave satisfied, and that's my biggest thing that I want to make sure that we work through.
Well, it certainly sounds, passion is that one key ingredient that's always the most important, right? And I would argue that the butcher is also having a really great time.
100%.
Or, he's really found,
100%.
the joy in all the activities, not just a few.
100%. Yep.
And so it's sounding like you too have found the joy in just not the mundane, but the building of the systems so that
Totally.
it becomes such a well-oiled machine.
I never thought at this stage of my career I'd be having as much fun as I'm having. Like I'm having the maximum amount of fun that I've ever had. And I think back of why that is. And like, the first half of my career, like I don't know how to say it in a tactful way. You just eat shit so badly, like it's just so hard. The failure is so hard. The rejection is just so hard. And you think like, gosh, am I ever going to get this right? Or is it always going to be a panic? And that was just my experience maybe, but finally you get to a certain point where you start to, I don't want to say figure it out, because that's when you start to get to the danger completion zone, but like you start to really feel that you're like starting to get it a little bit. There's scenarios that you've seen before so many times, how to handle them, and things of that nature. So
that's when it becomes really, or that for me, that's when I truly enjoyed it, is when you could handle all those objections, or I had the most crazy thing that somebody could say, and you've actually gone through it once or twice.
Like there's nothing better than like a client just this morning, something's happening with her place. It's very positive what's happening, but it's hectic what's going on. And she went through this whole rant about what she's worried about, this and that, and rightfully so, because it's new to her. And I said, hey, you want me to share some good news? She goes, yeah. I said, I know exactly what to do. And she goes, you do? I go, let me lay this out for you. And you lay it out. She goes, that sounds great. I'm like, no problem. And that's where it feels good.
Fantastic. So we'll go back. I always like to go to the origin story. Yeah. And you've already mentioned you grew up in New Jersey, so yes. It's your home field advantage. Yeah. And certainly I'm sure you've used that to your advantage too. Mm-hmm. What would you say as far as what's been the most difficult thing about scaling your business? Has it been the tech, or has it been I guess the overall market? What's been your greatest challenge, and then that you're most happy with overcoming? Yeah,
so it's a great question that you ask, and I understand what you're asking. I just have two answers for it.
Okay.
So, and they're related, right? So number one is client acquisition. I mean, without question, it's the hardest part, and I mean profitable client acquisition. Okay. I run very lean on all sides, staff, but at the same time, I get my business, and I built my business the hard way through, I prospected 3 hours a day, 5 days a week for the past 20 years. And I still do that today. Okay. So like that's
cold calling, or what does it look like for you?
Cold calling. Yes, you could say that that's what it is. I think it's got a very negative connotation to it to many people that might be hearing this. But it's prospecting. It's speaking to people that don't have a real estate license that may be looking to buy and sell real estate, right? One of the mentors I had growing up in this business, said something funny to me that stuck with me all the time. He goes, realtors are really funny. They spend so much time with each other with all the things they do in the office functions and the parties and this and that. He goes, if they only realized they need to spend that much time with people who don't have a license, they'd be much better for it, and that always just stuck with me. So I've worked real hard to get my contact lists up and everything that goes with it. And part two of that, because it's related, is skill, conversion. Like the ability to convert a prospect into an appointment, the ability to pre-qualify that appointment into a viable actual meeting, and then the ability to close that person down in that meeting to get them to sign their property with you. So those are the efficiencies that are the hardest, because when you want to do volume, you can't lose. It's not an option. You don't have time to lose. Everything's got to be a win. Right? So your time is super valuable on how that works. So it's really client acquisition and skill set. Those are the hardest things to groom over the past, you name it, years. And, I think it's the most difficult thing that the agents coming into the market don't realize now is, all the ways that they go to get clients in business, and let's say it works, and let's say someone comes through, then what?
Right.
Like, what happens then? right? Because if you're presenting against me, you don't have a shot. Like there's no chance that you beat me. You know what I mean? And that's the hardest thing, I think, for a lot of new agents to realize, that you still need sales skills. You still need versatility. You still need the ability to understand personality traits. You still need all that stuff to be able to win and close at a high level.
Great. So let's get on with your favorite points of your career. What are 2 wins that you're most proud of, and why?
Oh, gosh. So I think that the 2 wins have to be, and it's going to be a kind of a boring answer. The 2 wins just have to be the ability to be able to perform high level from a skill standpoint, that, to be able to get to a certain point to be able to close people down the right way. And, it's definitely, was transactionally for a long time, to be able to set goals and be able to make them work the way I want them to work, and to be able to, go after things the way I want to go after them. And, I think that all of that said would be packaged up with, one of the mentors I got early in the game, which was the Mike Ferry organization. And that's where I was trained, and I still am trained in that business. I started with them when I was in my early 20s, and I'm still with them today. So that's those are some of the biggest things that have really helped me. And I would say that the biggest wins that I've come across.
So for our viewers and listeners, I always talk about actionable insights. For anybody that is on the fence about getting a coach, what's your answer or recommendation?
You need people. So selling can be, at a certain level, a very lonely place, because it's just you driving, right? It's just you pushing. It's just you going after it. So you need someone to check you on it. You need someone to help you, to help move you, help you evaluate your stuff, help you give skills. So coaching is essential. And I've got it everywhere in my life. I mean, I've been in the Mike Ferry organization for a long time. I just signed up a brand new one, which was, have you ever heard of Dan Sullivan? He did
Of course, yes.
So I just joined a strategic coach with Dan Sullivan, which I'm really excited about. But I've got health coaches who does my fitness. I mean, I've got coaches all over the place to help the day work. So without question, make sure you have that and exposure to people doing great things. Another great reason to be where I am and having access to someone like Ryan is big thinker and smart guy, and you want as many of those people as you can surround yourself with. And it's not like we're in a business like JP Morgan where there's just thousands of employees and mentors that you could grow with and all this other stuff. Like, you're very, very isolated. So if you don't push yourself to find the right coaching and mentorship, it could be trouble. I will say this: make sure you get the right mentor and you're following the right people. Right. I think in the words of Jack Black of School of Rock, those who can't do teach, and those who can't teach Jim. So you got to be really careful with who you're listening to. But if you get the right mentor and the right research, it's one of the most valuable things that you can do.
So then let's flip the wins on its side and talk about transformational losses.
Yeah.
There is no loss if you learn from it. Has there been a moment in your career where you just had to pivot and it actually was for the better?
I don't know if I've ever had a pivot. I think more I've had to double down. I believed in the process and the system of what it is, but we're in the losing business. Like, the business is surrounded by loss and disappointment and things that don't work out. And you're just looking for the ones that do. And hopefully over time you get more and more stuff that works out. And, I think that the biggest losses were the most humbling, which is when you really prepared for something, you went for it, you would lose, and you would lose. And at that point you had really one of two choices, which is to blame everything around you for what the loss was, or to really, dive deep and be super critical of yourself and see what's possible and what you could have done better and where you messed up. And, I think a big part of growth in any direction, no less sales, is you have to be wildly critical of yourself in order to try to get to the next level and really look at all of the stuff that you do wrong. I mean, even today I'll go on a presentation and afterwards, there's a time slot in my calendar to dissect how that went. Even if I won, like what parts didn't go that well, what didn't get the head nod, what didn't get the laugh, what fell flat, what part of the presentation dragged, all that stuff to try to get the process really, really correct and tight. So.
All right, so let's move on to, this is a question I don't ask all of our guests, but
okay.
Patrick, what does success mean to you? At the end of your career, what would it be for you to say it's been a success?
Well, I thought that might be potentially a question that came on the docket after I saw a couple of your episodes. And, the thing that I think about all the time just with success is really going to kind of rip off what, Earl Nightingale's definition is, which always has stuck with me best, which is success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal. Right? So I think that success to me is not necessarily the outcome of where you finish or where you are. It's the path that you're taking to do that. Are you doing the right things in all levels, from health to mindset to how you treat people around you to skill set to everything, to try to get toward a certain goal? Because I think that the goals, do they ever really become accomplished? At least for me, I don't know if I've ever hit a goal. Every time I start to smell it, I move it, and it just keeps going on me. And, but the journey in that, I think, is what feels successful, is the path to want to keep improving on all fronts, as a salesperson, as a father, as a husband, as a friend, as a son. All of those things, so I think Earl Nightingale says it the best. So I'm gonna stick with his.
And I'm having flashbacks of my father, because he had all the Earl Nightingale cassette tapes.
Oh, sure. So do I.
It's somewhere in the attic. I think there still is that suitcase that he used to carry with us, even though I never knew us to have an 8-track, but he still wanted to keep those recordings. So
they still hold up today, man. Every morning, like I have a very intense morning routine from about 4:30 to 7:30. And, one of the first things I do is just like check out in the morning, like what the brain is doing, like, am I waking up with a good brain or a bad brain? Like, where are the thoughts, and if I tell that my brain is not in the right direction, I pour things into it, in the morning routine to just make sure I center myself and get myself thinking in the right direction. And it's interesting, when I was younger, I didn't come from a place where we were taught how to think or how to prepare thoughts or anything of the sort. And, through many years of, the ferry industry, ferry business and everything else, I've learned a lot from them. And, but I could think back to my earlier days and I wouldn't find out that my attitude was crappy until like 2 p.m., and I'm like, oh my God. And like, I'd be like, I've been going through the whole day, like this. I'm like,
so it can really shape, it does shape everything that you come in contact with.
100%. And like, I would pick it up so late. And then, over time, maybe I would catch it at noon. Then I learned how to catch it at 11, a little bit earlier. Now I just know how my brain tries to trick me. So I'm all over it first thing in the morning, so I can combat if it's going good or bad, depending on what the morning is. So
let's do an abridged version of the gratitude game, because I'm sure you have really incredible answers already lined up. So this is the rose, thorn, bud.
Sure.
Your colleague, the very first agent Brew, was Jill Preschel, and
yeah.
She literally uses this every single day with her kids. So I'm excited for us to be able to play, but it is Agent Brew. So we're going to do it with a little twist of coffee. So We're going to start with the aroma.
Perfect.
And it's what energizes you. What motivates you and energizes you, Patrick?
Without question, I've got and I could go into much detail as you want with this. I've got a really intense 3-hour morning from 4:30 to 7:30, and that is my time. It's full of heavy exercise, mindset, gratitudes. I mean, I journal during that time. I track what I did the day before that time. Heavy working out, saunas, ice baths, depending on the day, whatever it is. But like that is my alone time.
It's just you. It's not like in a gym. It's your own.
I go to a place to work out where there's some other people there, but you're left very, very, very much alone. And that to me is, that's my morning. That sets the entire day. It sets the intention of the day and everything else. And like, I really don't need much. Like I always think about, it's interesting. People talk about accountability a lot, and that comes up a lot. They need accountability partners and stuff. And I respect it. I get it. But what I always question with that, which I never understood, is why would someone need an accountability partner for something that they wanted to do? Like, I never got it. Like, people are like, oh, let's hold each other accountable to go to the gym or something like that. Well, you obviously don't want to go. So just be honest with yourself. And like, once you start being a little more honest with yourself, identify why you don't want to go. Maybe they need it for like prospecting or whatever it might be. That means they really don't want to prospect. So, you know what I mean? So like, I never really understood that part of life. I know that some people do need it, and I respect it on some level, but I think that they need to like question it. So that 3-hour like intensity, it's really hard work. It's really probably the most difficult stuff I do all day is that 3 hours. And that's really what sets the attention. It actually makes the rest of the day very easy because of how hard those hours are.
And is that 5 days a week?
7.
Oh, wow. All 7.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you might need a day off here and there,
but I mean, it's all filled of different things for what it is, for active rest and recovery. I mean, it's put together by a professional, like my whole week is.
Okay.
But I don't ever think that there has to be necessarily downtime. I look at the day or the week just as a progressive circle that kind of goes around. So it's a 7-day a week commitment. No one's up at that hour anyway, so.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. It's the active recovery.
Yeah.
So moving on to the actual brew, that first cup of coffee, right? So it sustains you, it gets you really, really humming and going, like your 3-hour morning meditation and routine.
Sure.
One might say it's what is your why? So what is your why?
It's the easiest answer. I've got a wife. I'll be married 20 years in October. I've got 2 incredible daughters, and all of this is for them. That's what it's 100% for. I just want to make everything wonderful and have them have the best life and no worries and the best time possible. And that's what makes me happy, and really why I do it and why I work so hard. It's as simple as that, but they're my everything. So
then is there anything right now that's, causing you frustration or is a little annoyance, like a thorn in your side?
Yeah. I mean, I just joined, as I mentioned, Dan Sullivan's coaching program, which is Strategic Coach. And, for the first time in a long time, I'm having a little bit of challenges with just thinking big and goal setting and some other stuff. What's interesting is, it used to be a lot easier when I was younger to have tangible goals are very easy because you want to get them, then you buy them and they're yours. And then you have transactional goals and you just get to the transactions. And once that kind of like loses its kind of like luster, it's a little hard to figure out like where you think you want the next 10 years to play out, because everything you want to do, at least everything that I do, it's not an immediate situation. You put a plan in place, it takes a long time to get there. So I just really want to make sure that the effort that I'm putting forth is going to be going to a path that I want to be at in that next 10 years of life. And I'm starting to get some clarity with what that is now. I have an idea of it, but I'm really looking forward to this new coaching program, which really unlocks that potential. And you get to really meet with some incredible people that are associated with that organization.
Well, I love your mindset and how you frame it, that it's not about the goals, right? It never is. It's about the journey.
Yeah.
And because if you're too focused on the goals, then you might lose this other incredible opportunity that could change your life.
100%.
My high school and college years were so clouded by thinking I had to achieve this goal and that goal, when you didn't realize what what was out there. The
Yeah,
entire time.
it's
So,
interesting too. It's interesting when you set some goals to go after them too. Like you don't know what that is the next stepping stone to what's past that, you know? So there's just some ideas that I have, and I'm excited to try to work through it and unlock a little bit.
so in addition to the Dan Sullivan coaching, the last part is the fresh beans or the bud. Kind of what I really envisioned this podcast always being about is for agents to come on and not just talk about their journey story, but what's new? What do you have cooking? Is there anything you're about to release, a new exclusive, a new project?
We have so many exciting new things coming up, and the biggest thing that is new is what we're doing at SERHANT and what we're putting together from that brokerage standpoint for Jersey City and the Hudson County marketplace is exciting. Working on a bunch of new projects. I think I have about 420 new units coming up to market over the next 18 months or so. So we've got an incredible new projects.
Rental, condo, or a little bit of both?
Those are condos. From the rental side, I've got about 700. So we've got an incredible pipeline of just exciting stuff coming out. So we just couldn't be more happy to work on that. And it's just, the whole thing's been exciting. And, a year with the new brokerage has been just really great. They do such a great job. One of the interesting things about the brokerage that I'm at now is that I've been to a lot of different agencies, and a lot of times, I shouldn't say a lot, I've been to a handful, and I'm observant of the others, but a lot of times, many managers and owners of brokerage have given up on selling. And that's why they've become managers. They don't want to sell anymore. And it's always been very challenging for someone like me to like how am I supposed to get support or think or talk with any of these people who weren't close to doing what I was doing? They have no relation to what it is. And they've also given up on the craft. And it's just always been really difficult. So what's interesting about the brokerage now, which I'm experiencing after the fact of signing up, is to have someone running it that is still very interested in selling and very progressive and thinking about it and knows the grind that we all go through is just a very different experience. And it's quite refreshing, truthfully. So it's great.
Well said. And so many regular agents, when they go to a new firm, they'll lose about 30% of their business, right? But I have found, especially in the East Coast side of the country, those that are really motivated and I guess the passion side, what we were just talking about with Ryan, you can't help but to just reinvigorate your entire business plan.
It's true. And, Eric, it's so important just to stay so stimulated, and just make sure that you're we talked about the journey and everything else, like the excitement and the passion, that has to stay alive. And the minute that starts happening in a sales and high rejection business, it's not a good combination. Because believe me, people like to talk about the amount of transactions and sales I have, and that's the side they decide to focus on. But can you imagine, you've been in this business a long time, do you know the amount of loss that comes with that? I mean,
that's why I'm thinking here, my gosh, 3,000 transactions.
You know how many times I lost?
It's pretty incredible. And well done. And already over 100 for this year. So that's something where I just happen to be rewatching Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
And so Eddie Rojas' Football is Life. And so you are real estate is life, right? It is eat, sleep, breathe real estate, but not just, the name real estate, it's every aspect of the business.
Totally. And listen, I just try to be like a good person, I want to treat people the way they deserve to be treated and give them results that they're, supposed to be getting and the experience that they're supposed to have. I want them, listen, selling a house for someone is a stressful time, because the thing that's tough about our work is that the clients that we have mainly are educated people in my marketplace. They're smart, they're all the things, but they're amateurs at buying and selling real estate. So they have no idea what it is or what to do or how it works or anything of the sort. And it's a huge ticket item, And the more educated that we can make them and the better that we can serve them, it's self-serving for us too, because our repeat and referral business is huge. So I'm very aware of that aspect and how important that is. But, just on a human level, like they deserve that, so we work really, really hard for that experience to really jive with the severity of the transaction.
Well, we've come to my favorite part of the episode, and that's, and you really teed this up as a great segue. If you could go back over all those years and give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be, Patrick?
So I had written something down to make sure I didn't miss it. But, I would say that the real thing I would tell myself is not to be so scared. Like, I was so scared. I had built the business just from such a place of fear, like it had to work, and I would say like the first half of the business, either an easy decade. I mean, it was so tough because I was so nervous that it wouldn't work. And it was interesting when I first started the business, and I'm glad that this happened. And I think about like the younger agents and stuff like that too. When I got in, it wasn't like I wanted to make a lot of money. Of course that would be great, right? That was on my mind. But what I really wanted was I have to get good at something. Like, I don't know if I'm good at anything, So I just focused trying to get good at scripts, good at finding work, good at objection handling. I mean, every dollar that I made, I would fly all over the country to go to productivity workshops for Mike Ferry and spend everything I earned going to these 2-day classes, chanting scripts and objection handlers. I mean, when I was first living with my wife a long time ago, she reminded me of this not too long ago, but I slept for like 2 years with, headphones on with the listing presentation with Baroque music playing. Like, I did everything it took, to be able to just get good.
You use the word spend, but, I would say you invested.
100%. 100%. And, it was scary. So like, I would say, that was the thing I would tell myself, because physically it wasn't good for me, like it wasn't good to be that scared all the time and anxious and nervous and everything else. And I was, because I was just so afraid that like it wouldn't work, so that's what I would tell myself. It's probably shaved a couple of years off my life, but that's what I would tell myself.
Well, are there any positive quotes or motivational phrases that have driven you over the years?
There has been, and they always change depending on where my head is. But the one I've heard about last that really stuck with me, have you heard? Do you know who Jim Rohn is?
Of course.
Okay, I love it.
Absolutely. So he's the predecessor of Tony Robbins.
So whenever my brain is being a bad brain, that's what helps me become a good brain. I listen to some of that, right? But he has this really great statement, which is, affirmation without discipline is the beginning of delusion. And man, do I love that.
100%.
Yeah.
As we've been discussing your career, that's been the one thing that stood out. And of course, Kristen didn't hurt by mentioning you being the quintessential hustler, because you just grinded your entire early part of your career. And that's, but if you want to be good at something, that's what you're doing, right? You're 100%. Shooting the baskets, you're hitting the balls, and it's just so that you can put yourself in as many opportunistic times to experience. Right?
100%. And Eric, I think about it all the time with people have a hard time with discipline sometimes, and I think that it's just the way they think about it is wrong. Like my morning discipline is so intense. People look at it sometimes and think it's like wacky or crazy or too much. But what they don't realize is that small little commitment over the course of the hours of a week open up the rest of my week to be able to perform really high at work at a super high level, and then come home from work and have full energy at dinner with my kids, to be able to sit down and do 6th grade geometry work with a good attitude. You know what I mean? Like, because the energy and everything is there, like it's to be able to create the whole day, and what happens with a lot of people, and I think why they get frustrated, is it's the plateaus that hurt people. because they feel a little success from what they do, and then the plateau kills them, right? And it's like they're like, I'm doing all this work and nothing is happening, everything's going on. In fact, I think I'm going backwards. Like they have all those thoughts, right? And I've learned to love the plateau. Like when I'm feeling the worst in the plateau, that's when I double down, because I go, I must be so close, because I'm thinking these horrible thoughts. It's got to be right around the corner. So I go harder at that point, trying to get to that next little jump. And I always give, agents and other people the example of, if you look at any house you go in, right? There's not a ramp that goes to the second floor like this. It's all plateaus. It's a series of plateaus that get you to the top, And that's how I think people need to think about the disciplines and the hard stuff, that if you just stick with a logical plan and really see it through, it compounds. And it will work if your intentions are right, your mindset's right. Of course, you're trying to tell the truth and take care of people and do all the right stuff, but you gotta fight through that plateau, and that's the key.
And that is how we are going to end season 2 of Agent Brew. You have to fight through the plateaus. And Patrick, thank you for being the exclamation point on season 2. I mean, this has just been really such a pleasure and fun, right? Because your energy is so contagious, but it's really great to see somebody that's a nerd about the workings of the work.
100%.
Right? Well, I can't say I am that way these days. Certainly when I had my own firm and in new development, it's just yes, let's geek out on the CRMs and
yes.
And all the tags that we can put in. But wishing you a tremendous amount of success.
Thank you so much.
And we hope to have you on future seasons of Agent Brew. And great luck with Ryan SERHANT. It's hard to believe you've only been there a year, but I see great things in your future.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really great, and I really appreciate the time and thinking of me. So thank you.
Absolutely. I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody at Realty Co. for making this podcast a reality, to Claire Lichtenstein, our executive producer, and to Wonder Studios with Desta. Great job, team. And thank you to Dan and Briggs. It's so awesome to be able to be at this desk and be able to amplify and tell, or be able to discuss with agents their journey story. So I'm Eric Zollinger from Realty Co., reminding you it's a great day for real estate.